Another story that's been in the headlines as Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum warned on Thursday that her government may pursue legal action against Google if the company continues using the name Gulf of America on its maps. The dispute comes after an executive order made by U.S. President Donald Trump renamed the Gulf of Mexico within American territorial waters, which is a move that Mexico is rejecting. Sheinbaum emphasized that Mexico retains sovereignty over much of the Gulf and that the name Gulf of Mexico is globally recognized, adding that the Trump administration's decision does not extend beyond U.S. territorial waters. Google maintaining that its naming conventions, though, follow updates from official government sources. A lot to talk about here, so we do want to bring in New York-based attorney Nicole Brenecki. She's a friend of the show. Thank you so much for joining us here this morning.
Hi, thank you for having me again.
Of course. Well, so my first question is, the Gulf is shared by a bunch of different nations. It's not owned by anyone specifically. So is President Trump able to do this with an executive order?
Yes, he is able to do it with an executive order, but this decision does not have to be adhered to or followed by other countries. It is true that the U.S. exerts control over approximately 46% of the Gulf, and that has been acknowledged internationally for a very long time. This part of the water is controlled by the federal government and is maintained by the federal government. And there's a lot of economic activity going on there, such as fishing, shipping, electricity, and other things. And that is why Trump was able to do that. But we need to remember that this name change only pertains to the language that is used within the United States government, state and federal government. So other countries simply do not have to adhere to that.
And Sheinbaum confirmed that Mexico has already sent a formal complaint to Google, arguing that, quote, the entire Gulf of Mexico cannot be called the Gulf of America. But it remains unclear where Mexico might file a lawsuit or on what legal grounds. So what legal action could Mexico take against Google here?
Legally, it's a rather novel issue, and I think that the president herself conceded that by stating that she is still discussing potential legal grounds with her legal team. So that lawsuit, I think, would have to be filed in Mexico because it would have to be a civil suit. It would not be a suit between the United States and Mexico. It would be a suit between Mexico and Google, which is a private company. And that company, in my opinion, would be subject to jurisdiction in Mexico for the simple reason that it does business in Mexico as much as it does business in any other country in the world. So venue where that lawsuit would be filed is not an issue. That could be Mexico potentially, but the legal grounds need to be decided, and the president is currently discussing that with her team.
Can we go in a little further what this whole process might look like if this does happen? Because have we seen this happen before, right? This seems like something that may not be too common, right?
Yes, it is not. It is not too common. We will have to see how it unfolds. Google claims that it simply followed the various governmental bodies that adopted this. Within the states, there is a body that specifically deals with geographical names, and that body has already adopted the change, and Google followed it. We also need to mention the fact that this Gulf is named differently depending on where the viewers of the map are located. So within the states, we see it as Gulf of America. Mexico still sees it as a Gulf of Mexico, and other countries see both names. So it's not like Google decided to adopt that name worldwide, but the president of Mexico does have a valid argument that renaming it, even if it's just for viewers of one country, may be problematic because that name was recognized for over 400 years. It was recognized by international organizations, which I think it's a great argument because no single country should be making those decisions. She believes that this name should be continued, but she does make it clear that the White House executive order underscored the fact that this change pertains only to the water that the territory belongs to the United States. It is under its control.
One question I have, we've also seen Apple roll out this change, though. So is it possible that if we do see this lawsuit come out against Google, is this really just the beginning?
If that lawsuit really comes to life and ends in a certain determination, I believe that determination should be binding for other companies, that we should not have the same legal issue regurgitated when we just have different actors in a lawsuit, but the issue is the same. So so yes, Apple followed suit, and I think Bing as well. But we will see if that lawsuit really comes to fruition. Then that will be a determination that should be binding on everyone.
And Nicole, I know we were saying we just have to wait and see what happens here, but if this were to come to fruition, how quickly would this move along? How quickly would we get an answer to all of this?
We would have to first see if that lawsuit will be filed in a court in Mexico, and then that would depend on the workload and the pace at which the Mexican court system moves. I think that it's an issue that is pretty important internationally, and also it's augmented in the media, and that is why I don't think that they will be sitting on it. I think it will move fairly quickly if it is in fact filed. But as we touched upon previously, appropriate legal grounds have to be determined to file a lawsuit like that. Probably Mexico will have to demonstrate some actual damages also from that renaming, something tangible that would require a reversal of the renaming by Google. So definitely a novel issue. We need to observe what happens. I'm very curious to see, and I will be following that myself.
Yeah, Nicole, and my last question for you as an attorney, is there anything about this that sticks out to you as something that could be kind of uncharted territory for all of this, or any big questions that you may have as we continue to follow whether this will come to fruition?
We need to know that name changes, geographical name changes are really not that uncommon. This one is controversial because it was part of Donald Trump's slew of executive orders that have that goal in mind to put America first. And this is something that not a lot of people agree with. Obviously, there's a lot of people who agree with it, but there's some criticism of the ideas behind those executive orders. So it may not really be that important of a change, but because of the philosophy behind it is controversial. So I think it's something that can either blow over, or there can be a judicial resolution on that will be binding, and we will know how to handle those situations in the future. It is novel in terms of Mexico's suit against Google, but geographical name changes themselves are not really uncommon.
All right, Nicole Brenecki, always appreciate you coming on live now. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
We're learning from the Associated Press.